Hi, welcome to Tricia's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making strawberry shortcake and homemade whipped cream. This recipe, I love this recipe. This is a favorite in my house. It was a favorite among my out-school students. Lots of people like this recipe, and I think you're going to enjoy it too. So I sent out the recipe, or I have posted the recipe in the description. It's also in the chat, if you can see it in the chat. So it should look something like this when you print it out, or you can just bring it up on your screen or just follow along with me. I'm going to go through it step by step. So I'm so excited to do this recipe. So I have all my ingredients out here. And the first thing we're going to make is the shortcake or the biscuits. And the thing that we want to do, the very first thing we want to do after we wash our hands, of course, the first thing we're going to want to do is preheat our oven. So that way it's already heated up by the time we have our biscuits ready to put in the oven. We're going to preheat our oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit or 218 degrees Celsius. So 425 Fahrenheit or 218 Celsius. I'm going to preheat mine. And that now we can start to make the biscuits. So I have all my ingredients out here for all of the things that we're going to be making. We're going to be making the biscuits, we're going to be making the strawberry sauce, and then the homemade whipped cream, which is my favorite part. So for the biscuits, we're going to need flour, granulated sugar, baking powder, salt, salted butter, and milk. So that's everything you need. If you only have unsalted butter, that's why I hesitated. If you only have unsalted butter, you can just add a little more salt and it will be fine. But usually I just use salted butter in this recipe to make it easier. So we're going to start making the biscuits. So for the first recipe, you're going to need a medium-sized bowl. If you have larger, that's fine, but at least a medium-sized bowl to make this. And what we're going to do, the first ingredient we're going to add is 1 cup of flour. So 1 cup or 120 grams of flour. So you'll notice on my recipe, I also have all the measurements in grams and milliliters in case that is what you're using. So you're welcome to do either. So we're going to do 1 cup of flour. So I have a measuring cup here, and you can spoon it in. For flour, I always spoon my flour into my measuring cup. I never scoop it up because when you scoop it up, you might pack it down too much and you might end up with more flour than you want. So your biscuits may be denser, a little heavier than you want. So you always want to scoop it in. So you can just take a spoon, or if you have a scooper like this, I'm going to add 1 cup. And then you just lightly level it off. Don't push it down. So you can use your finger if your fingers are clean, or just your spoon, and level it off. And add your 1 cup to your bowl. The next ingredient we're going to add is our granulated sugar. So not the powdered kind, we're using the granulated kind. So white granulated sugar. So I have mine right here. And we're going to do 1.5 tablespoons of white granulated sugar, or 18.75 grams, thereabouts. So 1.5 tablespoons. So for sugar, you can just scoop it out. It doesn't pack down like flour does. So I'm just going to level that off. Again, you can use your finger as long as it's clean. So 1.5 tablespoons. But you always want to level off because otherwise you'd have extra ingredients in there and your recipe may not come out quite right. So 1.5 tablespoons. And then we're going to add our baking powder. Our baking powder is what makes these biscuits kind of rise. You're going to see kind of a chemical reaction when we add our milk to these. It'll start to bubble. It's kind of cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 1/2 tablespoon. So not a teaspoon, tablespoon. You want a lot of baking powder in this recipe. So 1/2 tablespoon. So your bigger one, not teaspoon, 1/2 tablespoon. You might have baking powder like this. And then just level that off. My container has a nice leveling, yours might not. Either way, you just level it off. And we're going to add that right to our mixture. I'll slow down a little bit just in case anybody's catching up. Again, you can stop and start this video anytime you'd like, so that you can do the recipe. If you don't have all your ingredients now, you can do it later. Or if you miss a step or something, you can slow it down, okay? So, and leave me any comments, questions in the chat. That's great. If I see them, I will be able to answer them during the class. So we have, so far we have our flour in here, our sugar, and our baking powder. Now we're gonna add 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Now you may not have 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's basically like a pinch of salt, if you've ever heard that term. So I have my salt right here. And we're gonna do 1/8 of a teaspoon. So if you have that measuring spoon, it's 1/8. It's a very small one. And when I pour out my salt, I always do it to the side of the bowl. If you do it over the bowl, it may overflow. You may end up with a lot more salt than you want. So you don't wanna do that. So I'm just gonna do it to the side of the bowl and I'll just clean that up later. So 1/8 of a teaspoon. And my salt is stuck together a little bit. So I'm gonna pound that a little bit. Sorry if that was loud, apologize. And that helped. So I'm gonna do 1/8 of a teaspoon and then level that off. And again, if you were using unsalted butter, you just add a little bit more to that mixture, just to get a little more salt in there, or you can leave it out, it's up to you. So we have all of our dry ingredients in there right now. I'm just gonna stir it up. You can stir it with a spoon, fork, spatula, whatever you have. Just stir it up to get it kind of started to be mixed up. And then what we're gonna add is our butter. So what you want for the butter is you want cold butter, because this is gonna be in a solid form when you add it. And then what's gonna happen is as these biscuits cook, that butter is going to melt. It's gonna add all these nooks and crannies to your biscuits, which is really nice. It also adds a great butter flavor to your biscuits. So I forgot to get my butter out, just 1 second. So for the butter, you need 2 tablespoons. And what the 2 tablespoons on your stick of butter, you should be able to see lines. Or if you don't have that, you can measure it out. But 2 tablespoons, so 2 lines. And what we're gonna do with the butter is we're gonna cut it into little cubes. I find that is the easiest way to do this. So I'm gonna set my bowl aside. I have a cutting board just to make it a little neater and cleaner. And you can use anything to cut your butter. You could use, it doesn't have to be a sharp knife, just a dull knife. Or if you have like a sharp, not sharp, but a firm spatula, that can also be used to cut your butter. So all I'm gonna do for my butter to cut it, I'm gonna make it into little cubes. So I'm gonna go down one way, like horizontally, and then I'm gonna go the other way, vertically. I know I just switched those, but horizontally, vertically, you're gonna do it just one way and then the opposite way. And you'll see you have all these little cubes now, and you're just gonna have to flip it once to get the little cubes, because now you have these long sticks. So I'm just gonna go down it one more time, once I flip it. And now I have, you can see these little cubes of butter. There's other ways you can do that, but that's how I do it. And then you're just gonna add that to your mixture. So I'm just gonna take this and break it up in there. As you can see, my butter is nice and cold because it's keeping its shape. If yours is a little more melted, that's okay. Just add it in there. I break it apart. That one part a little bit more. So you're gonna have all these little dots of butter in there. And as it melts, you'll have all these nooks and crannies in your biscuits, which makes for a really nice biscuit or shortcake. Okay. So then you might wanna wash your hands, or if you have a towel nearby, kind of clean off your hands because you'll be a little buttery. I have a little more on my cutting board. I'm just going to add that in. I'm going to set this aside. So then that's how mine looks. And then what I usually do, if you have a pastry cutter, you can do that. I'm just going to use a fork though. And I'm going to just push it down, push all my butter into my mixture. That's going to spread it all throughout. So it's all in different parts. So all the biscuits get a little bit. It'll break up your butter a little more too. Again, if you have any questions, you can, if you're watching this live, you can comment in the chat, or you can, if you're not watching it live, you can comment later and I can answer them. Okay. So that is my mixture. So you don't need to have it thoroughly combined. You just kind of have the butter mixed up in there. So the last thing we're going to add for our biscuits is our ½ cup of milk. So we do, for milk, you can do, if you have a liquid measuring cup, that's fine. But for this recipe, you really don't need it. I'm just going to use a regular measuring cup. So ½ cup or 120 milliliters. So 1/2 on my measuring cup. Grab my milk. And add it right to your mixture. And then you can start stirring that up. I usually just use a spoon or a spatula, both work, and mix it all together. And you'll see it start to bubble a little bit. Again, that's the chemical reaction of the baking powder and the liquid and everything. And that is what's going to make our biscuits rise. So scrape your bowl, get the sides, get the bottom. You want all of that mixed together. And it's going to be a little elasticy. Is that a word? Elasticy. So like that. Just mix it all together. So this is how mine looks. And these are like drop biscuits. So we're just going to drop them. They're not going to have like, distinct form. It's just going to be dropped onto our baking sheet. So again, for our baking sheet, what you're going to need, any cookie tray will work, any sort of tray, metal tray. And what I usually do for mine is I line it with parchment paper or a silicone mat like this. If you don't have that, that's okay. You can put it directly on the cookie sheet. And what you're going to want is a spoon for this. We're going to make 4 biscuits, 4 large ones. I'm going to grab a spoon. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to take a big scoop like this and add it right there. And what you can do is you can make your 4 large biscuits, and then you can go back through if you have some extra dough. Okay. And so again, these make very large biscuits. So what you can do is you bake them up. If you have more than 4 people who want to enjoy your strawberry shortcake, you can then go back through and cut them in half. Or you could bake them for a little less time. I just don't have the time for that, or the time that you would need to bake that for. So I can't provide that to you. But usually what I do is just cut them in half. And so everybody still gets a serving, and they're just a little smaller. Okay, so I have a little extra, so I'm going to just add a little to each one. Again, my hands are clean, so I'm just going to take a little off. See which ones are bigger and which ones are smaller. And these don't need to look perfect. They're going to taste perfect, so that's all that matters. And so this is how mine look right now. Okay. And so what we're going to do, we're going to put in our oven. It should be just about up to temperatures. If yours is not, we can wait a little longer. And then the next thing that we're going to make is the strawberry sauce. So the strawberry sauce, is so good. It can be used for these biscuits. It can be also used for ice cream. It's a great topping for that. You can put it on many different desserts. So what we're going to do next, I'll set this stuff aside. I'm still waiting for my oven to come up to temp a little bit. I think it's almost there. So I'm going to set these aside. I'm going to get my strawberries out. So I have a whole package of strawberries, so it's 1 pound of strawberries. And what you're going to want to do is always wash your strawberries before you use them. I've already washed these, so they're all set. But if you haven't, you can go do that now. And then we will cut up our strawberries. And the great thing about this recipe is you can kind of adopt it to how sweet you want your sauce or not. So we're going to start with a little bit of sugar, and if you taste your strawberries, if your strawberries aren't as ripe, you might need to add a little more sugar. So I start out with the least amount, and then you can adapt it to your liking. Okay? So I'm going to put mine in. My oven is almost up to temp. That way I'll be able to show you everything. So again, we're at 425 degrees Fahrenheit or 218 degrees Celsius. And so I'm going to add these, and we're going to cook them for 12 to 15 minutes. So I'll put mine in. And set my timer. So I'm going to start out at 12 minutes, and they should be nice and golden brown on top. If I see that they need a little more time, then I'll put it up to, keep checking it up to 15 minutes, but they might be done at 12. Okay, so we'll start doing our strawberries. So I'm going to grab my cutting board for this. And for the strawberries, you don't need a very sharp knife. Again, you could use a firm spatula, or you can use just a regular kitchen knife. So I'm going to grab that. And for the strawberries, you have a couple different ways you can cut these. Of course, you're going to want to remove the stem. So we're going to cut that right off. But then you can cut your strawberries. You can slice them in quarters. You can quarter them, or you can do slices down them. So I'll show you both ways. So I'm just going down them. Stay clear of your fingers. And that's one way to do it. Or cut the stem again. You can just quarter them. So go down one way and then go the other way. So either way works. You're still going to get all that juice out of them. The sugar's still going to surround them and make a really nice sauce. So we're just going to go through and cut our strawberries. If you have less than this, that's okay. We might just add a little less sugar. That is also okay. Look at the recipe. So I have about 1 pound here. If you have less than that, and I think 1 pound was about 3 cups, 3 3/4 cup of berries. So you can adjust your recipe accordingly based on that. That one does not look that good, so I'm taking that one back. So I'm just going to cut up my strawberries. And usually during my out of school classes, I'd be talking to all the students during this time. So it's very quiet in here right now. So if you want to put anything in the chat, would love that. Otherwise, I'll just let you cut your strawberries. So next week, I have a couple options too for the classes. We can do a recipe for chicken and biscuits, which is a cool recipe because it uses almost the same recipe as the shortcake for the biscuits. And then we add chicken and vegetables. It's a really neat recipe. We also have, as an option, rainbow grilled cheese. I like this one a lot. This is a really cool one. The coolest part about it is not even the rainbow. It's how you bake your grilled cheese. So usually, you know how you bake a grilled cheese, you have to, you do it on the stovetop, and you have to watch it and make sure it doesn't burn and flip it. For this recipe, it's all done in the oven. So any age can really do it with parental guidance, or If you're just busy and you want to do it exactly right every time, it makes it very easy because it's just set it and forget it kind of thing. You set the timer, you flip it, and you're done. You have your grilled cheese. It's all ready. So it is a great recipe. And then the third option is mini cheesecakes, which is also a great one. So I gave you a huge variety there just to see kind of what people might want to see. So we have, again, and you can write in the comments which one you might want to see. So chicken and biscuits, rainbow grilled cheese, or mini cheesecakes. Okay, a couple of bad strawberries in here. Hopefully yours are looking better than mine. Okay. So I'm almost done cutting mine. I'm just gonna start with this amount because I know some of you may have less strawberries. So I'll show you how to do it. So I'll just set these aside. So these are my strawberries all diced up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them in my other medium-sized bowl. So for this, we used one bowl for our biscuits and we're gonna use one bowl for our strawberries. So add it right to your bowl. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add sugar to this. And the sugar is going to pull all the juices right out of our strawberries. So, and that's going to make the nice sauce that we're going to have. So we're going to add, if you have about 3 cups of strawberries, you're going to add 1/8 of a cup of white granulated sugar. If you have less than that, adjust accordingly. So I'm going to add, I'll start out with 1/8 of a cup for mine. And again, if you don't have 1/8 of a cup measuring cup, that is okay. A lot of sets do not have that size. It's really small. It's like a coffee. If you're going to scoop out coffee, it's that size. You can also do 2 tablespoons. It's equivalent to 1/8 of a cup. So I'm going to add 1/8 of a cup of sugar, regular white granulated sugar, to my strawberries. Pour that right in. And then I'm going to stir that up. Grab another spatula. And as you stir it up, you'll see it start to release some of the juice. See, mine are starting to get shiny and release the juice. And the longer you have your strawberries sit, the more juice will be released. So if they don't look, by the end of this, if they don't look like they have enough juice out of them, you can let them sit longer and then taste test them. If they need a little more sugar, you can add that. But just add a little at a time because you can always add more, but you can't take away. So you always want to do it that way. So you see mine, they're releasing a lot of juice. Perfect. And then you can set those aside. And our biscuits have about 5 more minutes, at least mine do, which is perfect. So we're letting that sit, and then we're going to make our whipped cream. And this one's a lot of fun. I like this. So you're going to either you can take a jar or a Tupperware, any container that has a cover, because what we're going to do is shake it. So this is the easiest way to make it. It's a lot of fun and easy. So you're going to shake it. So you want to make sure it's a secure cover. You don't want to go and swashing everywhere. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream. I have my cream right here. So 1/2 on your measuring cup, the same one you used for your milk earlier. 1/2 cup, and we're going to add it right to whatever container you're using. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of white granulated sugar. So 1 tablespoon. And level that off. I just kind of shook mine, but you can level it off. For this one, it's not as important. So 1 tablespoon. And then we need a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla makes everything better. So we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So 1/2 on your measuring spoon, 1/2 teaspoon. If you spill a little extra, that is okay. Vanilla makes everything better. It will not hurt your recipe. Okay, so you can mix this up if you want, or we're gonna shake it. So you can just put the cover on, checking my timer, and we are going to start shaking this up. So make sure it's on secure, and we're gonna just start shaking. So you hear a splish splash going back and forth. You hear it sloshing around in there. So you're gonna hear that for a while. You're just gonna keep going like this. Do whatever you want. But you're going to keep going back and forth, and it's going to start to get quieter and quieter. As you're mixing it, it will start to solidify a little bit. And so we're just going to keep going until we don't really hear much going on in there. You don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, you're going to end up with butter. So I've had a couple students end up with butter. So you just need to be aware of that. But this is a fun way to make it. This is great if you were on a camping trip, or if you're having your kids were having a sleepover or something, or just a family night. This is a fun thing to make. The entire recipe is a lot of fun. And again, you could use strawberries on ice cream and this on ice cream, and just skip the biscuits too. So mine's getting a little quieter, but I know it needs more time. So just keep shaking it. So different creams too have different fat content. So I have noticed, like if I use certain brands, it takes a little longer, but it will still form a whipped cream. It's getting quieter, but it's not quite there. I just check on it, so I'll show you what it looks like. Timer is almost done. So it's starting to get a little thicker, but it is not done yet. You want it so like when you put a spoon in it, it stays on the spoon. So set that aside. It's getting quieter. Just keep shaking it until you don't hear anything going back and forth. Oops. And make sure your cover's on. It's part of the fun. It's getting quiet. Of course, my timer is just about to go off. I knew that was going to happen. Oh, I think it's done. Yeah. Ah, it's pretty close. I'm going to grab a spoon to show you. Almost there. So you see it's getting a little thicker. But you want it to stay on that spoon. You don't want it to drip off. My timer's going off, so I'm going to just check my biscuits for a second. And mine are done. So I'm going to grab my oven mitts and get those out, and I'll show them to you. So these are mine. So mine are a little browner than the top, I think. But yours might be light brown. And these are perfect. So I'm going to set these aside, let them cool, and we're going to finish our whipped cream. So as you noticed, my classes will not always go perfect, but they're a lot of fun, and the recipes always taste great. So sometimes I might notice something and be like, whoa, what is that? But it's a great recipe. So hopefully you tune in again. Please subscribe and like, and I think this is done. And when you see the final product, you're going to be very happy. Oh, so close. Again, you don't want it dripping off the spoon. You want it in a solid form. Yeah, I still can hear it. That's why. That was my mistake. But again, you don't want butter. So don't go much further once you don't hear anything. I don't hear anything. So that is what I want. See? So I'm going to grab a plate and I'm going to plate this up so you can see exactly how my strawberry shortcake looks. So I'm going to grab one of my biscuits, my shortcake. That one. And the way I usually plate mine is I slice it in half and I add the strawberries and then I put some whipped cream on top and then I put the other half right on top of that. So I'm going to grab a knife. Oh, I still have mine from my strawberries. I'm going to just use that. Cut it in half. You'll see all the nooks and crannies in there from the butter. And you can let these cool a lot more, or you can have them nice and warm. It's up to you. Just don't make sure they're warm enough or cool enough so you don't burn yourself. So you see my strawberries are now very liquidy. There's a lot of sauce there. So I'll grab a spoon to pour those in. Just add that right to my biscuit. A little bit of the sauce, pour that right on. Perfect. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the whipped cream on top of that. Just like that. So that's the strawberry shortcake. And then you can put the top right on that. And ready to eat. Again, you can have these cold or warm, up to you. I would store the whipped cream in the fridge and the strawberries as well. If you're not going to have them right away, let the biscuits cool, and then you could put those in the fridge as well if you wish. Or you can leave those on the counter for a day or two. Okay, so that's our recipe today. Please vote in the comments for what you want to see next week. The choices again are chicken and biscuits, rainbow grilled cheese, or mini cheesecakes. Large variety there. I have a lot of recipes I can show you. If there's something else you'd like to see, let me know that too. I'd love to know. So bye. See you next week, Thursdays at 4 o'clock. Bye.